which employer will want to employ, as I understand it, and we, that you're the first and last person in the history of Singapore to have been charged and found guilty for conducting an illegal protest in the only place where you can legally protest in Singapore. You want to tell us about this strange story?
So on 27 September 2014, I can remember the date very clearly now, because it's that date. Yeah, it's very, very meaningful to me. And then that was the day I realized that in Singapore you don't really have freedom of speech and freedom of assembly. Because the reason why I went to Hong Lim Park's Speaker's Corner was because I went to speak up on how the first speech was because of the defamation suit, on how there is no freedom of speech in Singapore. And by being charged, immediately they say that I can no longer hold public assembly. But I don't understand why they are afraid of us holding public assembly if there is nobody supporting us and nobody agreeing with us. So the government always say, okay, you know, they are a crazy bunch of people, nobody will agree with them, don't go and listen to them. So yes, if the government is already having such a big machinery over there, saying that, asking people not to support us, then why are they still thinking that people will support us? So there must be something that is wrong in between. It's like, why do people want to watch our videos if they think that our video is not true? I mean, there are so many videos online every single day. There are so many people going to parliamentary hearing. So why don't the government go and look at every single one of them? Hey, your shirt got some issue. Hey, your button never button properly. Those kind of things they don't want to look. But they want to look at people who are holding a piece of paper. And then they want to go and charge people who are holding protests in Singapore. And that case actually went all the way to the United Nations. So the United Nations Human Rights Committee wrote into the Singapore government. And because the UN is involved and the Singapore is a member of the UN, the Singapore government had no choice, but they have to actually reply to UN. And the Singapore government reply was that there are hundreds of protests in Singapore. Do you really hear hundreds of protests in Singapore? The answer is no. So what happened is MPub's got this particular website. And what the government claims is that there are a lot of people who applied. And all these people got approval. And therefore Singapore is democratic and we allow people to hold public assembly, except for just us. And at that point in time, it was in 2014. And I had to raise funds on behalf of 2 other Singaporeans. This time round, they want me to raise funds on behalf of 5 other Singaporeans. So back then, they claimed that I was a leader and everyone was listening to me. So I say march, they will march. If everybody was listening to me, I don't need 6,000 people or 6 people to be charged with me, fundraise for 6 people. What I need is just 6 government policies to change, for our housing, for our healthcare, for our CPF, for our retirement, for our transportation, our education, and national service. So 6 of them: housing, healthcare, CPF, education, military, and transportation. These are the 6 policies that I think are the most important that affect Singaporeans' life. And I feel that the government should change these 6 policies first. Yeah.
Let me chime in on CPF. CPF, return CPF at 55 is one of the irrevocable principles of the political party I lead, the People's Voice. Alright? I was in a taxi this morning, and the taxi driver actually made a very good point. Because the excuse the government gave for not allow or changing its policy of CPF at 55 was that men were taking their monies to go to Batam, have mistresses there and squandering their money, right?
No, we need to clarify this point. Not every man will have 2 wives like the Prime Minister or the Law Minister. Most men in Singapore can't even get 1 wife.
Now, and the driver said, but how can that apply to a woman? But the woman also cannot withdraw the CPF at 55, right? And I said, wow, that's a good point. So, women are not going to go to Batam to find, gigolos or whatever, alright? Or a male partner. Yeah, so...
No, this part we also must clarify, okay? Not all women will lose their money in FTX. Not all women are the Prime Minister wives. So not all men will have 2 wives like the Prime Minister. And not all women will lose money like the Prime Minister wife. We need to get this clear first.